Hello everyone, welcome back to some more Let's Read Dragon Age Origins with Tim. So I've discovered that my headset microphone was inverted, and I went back and checked, and for the most part it's still good, but I was wrestling with this today. I think my voice might be a little too loud, so I'm going to quickly check this. I'll be right back. Okay, I think I got it right now. So let's read a little more Dragon Age then together, shall we? So let's see what we have for our codexes. Looks like we have one of each thing here that we discovered something new while we were in Ostagar. Let's go ahead and give these a read. So we have the legend of Luthien Dwarf Son. At an early age, Luthien was smaller than most children of the Alamari. At the age of 12, Luthien saved Tutha, the son of the tribal chief, from his own dog. The dog had gone rabid, and when it attacked Tutha, Luthien slew it with his bare hands. Tutha's father, Mebine, was impressed with Luthien's strength and bravery, and so took him in as his own son. When Luthien grew to manhood, he became known for his charisma and bravery. While shorter than his fellow warriors, Luthien was stronger and doughtier than any warrior in the tribe. When Luthien was still a young man, Mebine sent him to the dwarven city of Orzammar to negotiate an alliance. Mebine's tribe had come into conflict with other Alamari, and he needed as much help as he could get. Luthien was unable to convince the Dwarf King to aid his tribe, but fell in love with the king's daughter, Skea. Luthien and Skea fled the Dwarven realm and returned to his tribe. Skea taught Luthien the art of fighting without pain, the berserker state known as the Battle Wrath, and with it, Luthien became a renowned warrior. Luthien led his tribe to many victories, until eventually he replaced his foster father as chief of his tribe. This peace would not last. During a feast between the tribal leaders of the Alamari and the Avar, the beautiful and powerful Avar chieftain, Morriganan, became enamored with Luthien and seduced him. Skea learned of the tryst and fled the village to return to Orzammar. When Luthien rebuffed Morriganan's offer of marriage, she left in great anger, and from that moment on, there was war between the two tribes. For 15 years, the Alamari and Avar fought. During the Battle of Red Falls, a powerful young warrior from Morriganan's tribe challenged Luthien to a battle. Luthien was injured grievously, but slew the boy. Morriganan revealed that the boy was Luthien's son, conceived 15 years ago during their tryst. She cursed Luthien as the murderer of his own kin, and the Battle of Red Falls turned against Luthien. Wow! Morriganan defeated Luthien in battle after battle, until the Alamari were driven to the foothills of the Frostbach Mountains. There, Luthien made a last stand. In the night before Luthien's final battle, Skea came to him and offered him a dwarven suit of chain in exchange for a night together. Luthien agreed, and wore the armor the following morning in battle. The battle was fierce and bloody, and Luthien met Morriganan in personal combat. In the end, Luthien slew the warrior woman, but not before receiving a mortal wound to his heart, the chain inexplicably unable to block her final blow. Luthien died, and after the battle was done, a party of dwarven warriors came down from the mountain and took the body of Luthien back to Orzammar. From the legend of Luthien Dwarf Son, author unrecorded, circa 350 Ancient, negative 350 Ancient. Whoa, interesting. A little bit different than the story we had heard earlier from the Ash Warrior. We have a single new character. We have Alistar. You know, one good thing about the Blight is how it brings people together. Alistar was a novice Templar when Duncan recruited him into the Grey Wardens, or rescued him, as Alistar would say. We have a creature up here. Looks like we have the Mabari Warhound. Dogs are an essential part of Ferelden culture, and no dog is more prized than the Mabari. The breed is as old as myth, said to have been bred from the wolves who served Dane. Prized for their intelligence and loyalty, these dogs are more than mere weapons or status symbols. The hounds choose their masters, and pair with them for life. To be the master of a Mabari anywhere in Ferelden is to be recognized instantly as a person of worth. The Mabari are an essential part of Ferelden military strategy. Trained hounds can easily pull knights from horseback or break lines of pikemen, and the sight and sound of a wave of war dogs howling and snarling has been known to cause panic among even the most hardened infantry soldiers. I would imagine so. I saw the size of those dogs. Goodness, just come up to my chest. Culture and history, we have Ostagar. Representing the furthest point of encroachment by the ancient Tevinter Imperium into barbarian lands of the southeast, the fortress of Ostagar was once one of the most important defensive holdings of the South Waking Sea. It stood at the edge of the Lotaeri wilds, watching for any signs of invasion by the barbarians known today as the Chasnid Wilders. Straddling a narrow pass in the hills, the fortress needed to be bypassed to reach the fertile lowlands to the north, and proved to be exceedingly difficult for the Wilders to attack because of its naturally defensible position. Like most Imperial holdings in the south, Ostagar was abandoned after Tevinter's collapse during the First Blight. It was successfully sacked by the Chasnid Wilders, and then, as the Chasnid threat dwindled following the creation of the modern Ferelden nation, fell to ruin completely. It has remained unmanned for 4 centuries, though most of the walls still stand, as does the tall Tower of Ishal, named after the great Archon that ordered its construction. Ostagar remains a testament to the magical power of the Imperium that created it. From Ferelden, Folklore and History, by Sister Patrine, Chantry Scholar. Now we have Mana and Religion. We already read the Aeonar. The Fade. I thought we got the Fade before. Okay, I guess not. The study of the Fade is as old as humankind. For so long as men have dreamed, we have walked its twisting paths, sometimes catching a glimpse of the city at its heart. Always as close as our own thoughts, but impossibly separated from our world. The Tevinter Imperium once spent vast fortunes of gold, lyrium, and human slaves in an effort to map the terrain of the Fade, an ultimately futile endeavor. Although portions of it belong to powerful spirits, all of the Fade is in constant flux. The Imperium succeeded in finding the disparate and ever-shifting realms of a dozen demon lords, as well as cataloging a few hundred types of spirits, before they were forced to abandon the project. The relationship of dreamers to the Fade is complex. Even when entering the Fade through the use of lyrium, mortals are not able to control or affect it. The spirits who dwell there, however, can, and as the Chantry teaches us, the great flaw of the spirits is that they have neither imagination nor ambition. They create what they see through their sleeping visitors, building elaborate copies of our cities, people, and events, which, like the reflections in a mirror, ultimately lack context or life of their own. Even the most powerful demons merely plagiarize the worst thoughts and fears of mortals, and build their realms with no other ambition than to taste life. From Tranquility and the Role of the Fade in Human Culture, by First Enchanter Josephus. Interesting. Hi everyone, thank you for listening. We'll be back later when we have some more lore to read. Hey everyone, I think it's time to read some more lore. So let's see what we got while we were out there in the Lotaeri wilds. We have the Shade. Okay, that's right, I accidentally clicked on this one. So, it has often been suggested that the only way for a demon to affect the world of the living is by possessing a living, or once living, body. But this is not always true. Indeed, a Shade is one such creature, a demon in its true form that has adapted to affect the world around it. My hypothesis is this. We already know that many demons become confused when they pass through the veil into our world. They are unable to tell the living from the dead, the very static nature of our universe being confusing to a creature that is accustomed to a physicality defined entirely by emotion and memory. Most demons seek to immediately seize upon anything they perceive as life, jealously attempting to possess it. But what of those that do not? What of those that encounter no life, or fail to possess a body? What of those that are more cautious by their nature? These demons watch, they lurk, they envy. In time, such a demon will learn to drain energy from the psyche of those it encounters, just as it did in the Fade. Once it has drained enough, it has the power to manifest, and will forever after be known as a Shade. Such a creature spurns possession. It instead floats as a shadow across its piece of land, preying upon the psyche of any who cross its path. Perhaps it believes itself still in the Fade? There is evidence to believe this is so. A Shade will weaken the living by its very proximity. If it focuses its will, it can drain a single target very quickly. Some have been even known to assault the minds of living victims, causing confusion or horror, and making the target ripe for the kill. The tragedy of a Shade is perhaps that, once it has drained a target whole, its appetite is only heightened, rather than slaked. From the journal of former senior enchanter Malleus, once of the Circle Rivian, declared apostate, 920 Dragon Age. The Hurlock. Taller than their Genlock cousins, the Hurlocks are roughly of human size, and are possessed of considerable strength and constitution. The shock troop of the Darkspawn, a single berserking Hurlock can often be a match for numerous opponents at once. They are known to adorn themselves with roughly carved tattoos and keep track of their kills and deeds, though it is unknown whether or not there is a uniform standard to these markings. Alphas. Alpha Herlocks are more intelligent and more skilled fighters, often serving as commanders or even generals. Emissaries. Herlock emissaries have also been known to appear during a blight. These Darkspawn are the only ones recorded as being capable of human speech, and are often capable of employing magic. Oh, we didn't learn about the Genlocks here. Okay. And our character? Morrigan. Witch of the Wilds. Such idle fancies, those legends. Have you no minds of your own? Of herself, Morgan says little. She does not deny being a witch of the wilds, but beyond that, everything about her is in question. And that's all I got so far. Okay, everyone. I think it's time for some more lore. Let's see what we've unearthed since the last time we looked at our codex. We have a few new things, it looks like. Let's take a look. So we have 2 new creatures, it looks like. Again, more Genlock information. These are the most common Darkspawn in the underground, stocky and tough. Genlocks are notoriously difficult to kill, even by magic. Alphas. In any group of Genlocks, there is usually one who is dominant. As the tallest, strongest, and smartest of their kind, Alphas serve as a sort of commander, directing or bullying the others in combat. And emissaries. The most intelligent of the Alphas become gifted sorcerers, with many abilities akin to blood magic. These are the emissaries, and they usually only appear during a blight. And an ogre. Towering over their Darkspawn kin, the massive ogres are a rare sight on the battlefield. Traditionally, they only appear during a blight, but some records claim that ogres have been spotted in the deep roads, hunting alone or in small groups. At least one report by the Grey Wardens claims that an ogre was spotted alone in the Kokari Wilds in 919 Dragon, though it was weakened and easily dispatched. Up to 100 of these creatures can accompany a Darkspawn horde at any one time during a blight, often using their great strength to burst through fortifications and demolish the front lines of the opposing army. They use brute force to charge their enemies like bulls, slam the ground with their fists to shake enemies off their feet, and hurl giant rocks into the face of oncoming foes. Melee can be difficult against a giant that snatches a warrior up in one hand, crushing the life out of him, or beating him into oblivion with the other hand. The Nimble can try to wiggle his way free, or an ally can attempt to array of stunning blows on an ogre to free the comrade in danger. Grey Warden lore urges caution when slaying an ogre. Unless it is ensured that they have received a major wound to the head or the heart, it is possible that they are lying dormant and will regenerate to full health within a matter of minutes. During a blight, most Grey Wardens recommend burning all Darkspawn to ashes. Dead ogres in particular. We have a single item. Harvard's Aegis. Havard was Mafarath's closest friend. They were children together in the same Avar clan. They fought side by side in so many battles that Mafarath dubbed him Havard the Aegis, better to have at his side than any shield. Mafarath brought Havard with him to the meet with the Tevinters. It was unthinkable to stand before his enemies without his Aegis. When he understood that Mafarath was giving Andraste over to be executed, Havard, unwilling to draw swords against his friend and liege, placed himself between Andraste and the Tevinter soldiers. The Tevinters struck him down, and Mafarath left him for dead. But Aegis was not so easily destroyed. Havard lived and made his way, gravely wounded, to the gates of Minrathis to stop the execution. Too late. He found only the ashes of the prophet left to the wind and rain. When his fingers touched the ash, his ears filled with song, and he saw a vision of Andraste dressed in cloth of starlight. She knelt at his side, saying, "Rise, Aegis of the faith. The Maker shall never forget you, so long as I remember." His wounds healed instantly, and with the new strength, Havard gathered up Andraste's remains and carried them safely back to the lands of the Alamari. And we have quite a few character information. Wow, looks like we have 7 here. So we have King Kaelin Theron. The only other information is that he fell in battle alongside Duncan at Astragar. Here, about Duncan, we learn that he was killed in battle against overwhelming numbers of Darkspawn at Astragar, alongside King Kaelin. Looks like we have some information about Morrigan. Her mother claims to be Flemeth. If that's true, the Morrigan might well be a very powerful witch, for the tales of the daughters of Flemeth tell of twisted, monstrous women who can kill a man with fear. She was made to accompany the surviving Grey Wardens, the payment, Flemeth said, for saving their lives at the Tower of Ishal. We have more information about Logain Mactyr. During the battle at Ostagar, he fled the field, leaving King Kaelin and the Grey Wardens to die. We have more information about Flemeth. Morrigan's mother saved the last of the Grey Wardens from the death at the top of the Tower of Ishal, but just who or what Flemeth truly is a mystery. We have some information about Sir Cuthrin. Some of us know what honor and loyalty are. Cuthrin came to Logain's service the hard way. She belonged to a poor family and was out doing work on the farm when she saw a man on horseback being attacked by several bandits. She rushed to his assistance and found out belatedly that the man she saved was none other than the great hero Logain. Though she was hardly more than a child, he took her in, offering her a position with his soldiers, and she climbed through the ranks through sheer determination. Becoming the commander of Marik's shield, Logain's elite soldiers, was the proudest moment of her life. And a little bit of information about Arl Aemon Gwerin, I think I pronounced that. Nobility does not exist without obligation. We owe all we have, even our lives, to our land and our people. As the maternal uncle of King Kaelin, Arl Aemon is one of the king's most trusted advisors. Redcliffe, while not a large or especially wealthy part of Ferelden, is a critical strategic location. The fortress guards the western pass that leads to Orlais, as well as a major trade route with Orzammar, a well-respected man, though not the most charismatic. King Kaelin once said of him, "My uncle Aemon is a man everyone thinks well of, when they remember to think of him at all." And we have, I think, just a single control information about injuries. Yes, from the head wound, the nature wound we took. Alright, that's all the lore caught up so far. We'll continue reading this as we find more. I will see you then. Hey everyone! Whoa! Welcome back to Let's Read Dragon Age Origin, the lore, with Tim. And we're going to pick up where we left off, which was we just finished Lothering. And it's time to take a look at some of our codex entries. And I didn't read a letter from the Blackstone Irregulars, mostly because of how much was in here. So let's go ahead and read that here. A letter, written in careful script addressed to me. To the inimitable Grey Warden. Your deeds have spread since the tragedy of Ostagar, and I find myself in need of one such as you. I am Raelnor, captain of the venerable Blackstone Irregulars, and I hope to win your trust. The Irregulars have come on hard times since the war with Orlais, but I have fought to improve their reputation. Gone are the days of my father's shady deals with unscrupulous nobles in Denerim. No, I have trained a guild filled with honorable men, ready to fight for Ferelden, and I am proud to say that I have seen your own Grey Wardens as a sort of model. We are not perfect. My own son advocates a move back to the more lucrative way my father ran the guild, but we are steadfast. It is in this context I ask for your help, and I promise we will reward you accordingly. Should you be willing, please find letters in this box and others like it all over the land, and carry out the requests therein. For this matter, consider requests from my son as if they came from myself. And thank you again, from the bottom of my heart, whether you choose to assist us or not. You are doing the Maker's work, Warden, and I am honored to work with you. Raelnor. This letter is marked with the seal of the Blackstone Irregulars, and we also have a letter of conscription, so we're handing this out to the people that, well, that are due to show up for the Blackstones to help them in their fight. Dear friend, you are receiving this letter because you or someone else placed your name on an article of conscription, thereby pledging your life to the Blackstone Irregulars. With war looming on all fronts, the Irregulars must build their numbers. We are forced to call upon those who have sworn their assistance to make good on those oaths. Say farewell to your friends and family. While you may return to them, you must prepare them for the possibility that this will be your last day together. Your sacrifice is appreciated. Talran. This letter is marked with the seal of the Blackstone Irregulars. Oh wow, so someone else could just put their name on that. Interesting choice. Okay, we have books and songs. Adventures of the Black Fox. Born Lord Remy Vascal in 863 Blessed, The Black Fox was a dashing thief and rogue who went on to inspire so many tales of his exploits that it is nearly impossible to determine today which are true and which are merely fabricated legend. Despite coming from nobility, he has become something of a hero of the common folk. His initial exploits involved ridiculing the tyrannical and powerful lord of Valdshevin. Wearing a mask, he would appear in public and disrupt the Lord's plans to the point that the Lord angrily put a huge bounty on the life of this cunning fox, the origin of the nickname which stuck. That the primary bounty hunter who took the job, Carolus, ended up becoming Remy's lifelong partner in crime, only after nearly killing him several times, is one of the most popular tales told in taverns today. The story is often exaggerated to make Remy appear initially buffoonish until Carolus becomes so furious at the Black Fox's inexplicable ability to survive that the cunning Remy gains the upper hand, which impresses Carolus so much that the bounty hunter joins him. After years of terrorizing the Lord's men and foiling his tax collectors, a favorite pastime of Remy's according to the Orlesian commoners, Remy was supposedly betrayed by his lover, Servana de Montfront, in some versions of the tale a mage of the circle no less, and captured. After more than a year of torture, Remy was rescued from prison by his compatriots, including a repentant Servana, and together they escaped Orlais. In this period of Remy's adventures, he appears almost everywhere in Thedas. As his legend grew, more innkeepers and merchants were happy to claim that the Black Fox had visited their village or establishment and performed some legendary feat. If the tales are to be believed, Remy led the Lord's men on a merry chase. He became embroiled in political intrigue in Navarra, was hunted by the crows of Antiva, and then kidnapped by a powerful mage into Vinter. In each situation, Remy escaped death at the last moment, foiled the evildoer, and improved life for the poor and the downtrodden. Then, inevitably, he rejoined his band of adventurers and moved on to the next land. His companions, Corleus and Servana, the wise dwarf Bolek, and the tempestuous knight Sir Clementus, have each spawned their own individual legends over the years. The stories all agree that, at some point, the Black Fox disappeared. He and his fellow adventurers voyaged into the heart of the Alrathian forest, seeking the sunken city of the elves, and never returned. Many more are the tales that expand on what ultimately happened to them in that forest, and postulate on how they could someday be rescued. From the Adventures of the Black Fox, by Gaston Garault, 911 Dragon, recent. And we already read about the legend of Luthier's dwarf son. We have some information about our characters here. Looks like Alistar a little bit. So, Alistar was a novice Templar when Duncan recruited him into the Grey Wardens, or rescued him, as Alistar would say. His mother was a serving girl who died when Alistar was very young. He was raised by Aemon Gurlin Owl of Redcliffe for a time. The Arl's wife, Isolde, suspected that the reason her husband took an interest in the welfare of a servant's child was that Alistar was Aemon's son. She insisted that the boy be sent away to the Chantry. Queen Honora. We have been given the gift of freedom by our forebears. Let us not squander it. The only child of the war hero Logain Matir, Honora has never been one to stay quietly in the background. It is common knowledge that in the 5 years Honora and Kaelin held the throne together, she was the one wielding the power. She is held in much higher esteem than her husband by the people of Ferelden, nobility and commoners alike, and commands the respect even of foreign nations, having once inspired Empress Selene of Orlais to declare, "Honora of Ferelden is a solitary rose among brambles." Wow, powerful woman. Poppy. The Mabari is clever enough to speak, and wise enough to know not to. Ferelden proverb. Galvin found this Mabari in the camp at Ostagar. His master was killed in the wilds, and Poppy fell ill from biting the darkspawn in battle. Poppy seems to have chosen Galvin as his new master now, seeking Galvin out after the Battle of Ostagar and warning of an impending darkspawn attack. Arl Aemon Gurlin. We know now that he fell ill with a mysterious condition that even magic could not treat. Liliana. In the cloister, away from the fuss and the flurry of the cities, I found peace. And in that stillness, I could hear the Maker. A lay sister of the Chantry who can beat the stuffing out of trained mercenaries would be notable enough, but one who also claims to have been sent to fight the Darkspawn by the Maker himself is unusual, to say the least. She joined Alistar and Galvin in Lothering, insisting she would prove useful. And Logain Matir. Logain was born a farmer during a time when his country was under foreign occupation. When he was still a boy, he joined the Resistance, where his considerable tactical genius quickly became apparent. He became close friends with Prince Marek, the last true heir to the Ferelden throne, and together they led the rebels to drive out the forces of the Orlesian Empire. Marek raised his friend to the nobility, and Logain is now more of a symbol than a man. He represents the Ferelden ideals of hard work and independence. During the battle at Ostagar, he fled the field, leaving King Cailan and the Grey Wardens to die. He then returned to Denerim and declared himself the regent to his daughter Queen Anora, demanding that Ferelden follow him against the Darkspawn, upsetting a great many of the bands. I'm assuming we'll find out what they are soon. Sten. Either you have an enviable memory or a pitiable life to know nothing of regret. The northern islands are remote, lush jungles that harbor cities rumored to be the most extraordinary ever built. These are the lands of the Quinari, lands that no foreign eyes ever see. Only the stories of the 3 exalted marches waged against the giants have ever reached the south, until the arrival of Sten. The Stotic giant in the cage was surely the strangest thing the people of Lothering had ever seen, until the blight struck. Ban Tegan Gurin. The Banorn will not simply bow to you because you demand it. Younger brother to Arl Aemon of Redcliffe and uncle to King Cailan, Tegan holds the Banon of Rainsfair, a small province of Redcliffe squeezed between the Frostback Mountains and Lake Calenhad. Ban Tegan avoids the Denerim court except to go hunting with his nephew, and rarely makes himself heard at the Landsmeet, preferring to leave politics to his brother. Sophia Drayden. Sophia Drayden is Ferelden's light and her most brilliant jewel. Nothing on this earth can ever quench her fire. Arlessa Sophia Drayden was the young Arlen's rival for the throne of Ferelden. Drayden was a strong and charismatic leader with much support from the Banorn. When Arlen finally won the crown, Drayden refused to relent. She pushed her claim, was caught, and accused of treason. Her sympathizers continued to support her, however. In order to appease them, Drayden was spared execution and forced to join the Grey Wardens instead. Drayden survived the joining and dazzled the Grey Wardens at Soldier's Peak with her leadership skills and charm. She eventually rose through the ranks to become the Warden Commander of Ferelden. Before Commander Drayden, the Grey Wardens were seen as a relic of an older time and an unnecessary drain in the nobles' coffers. Drayden, though, with her political connections, reinvigorated the Wardens and rapidly increased their numbers. In the meantime, King Arlen proved himself a devious king, willing to go to brutal lengths to silence his opponents. Arlen's reign of terror grew worse with each passing year, and some of the bands approached Commander Drayden in desperation, begging her to intercede. She agreed, and thus was the rebellion against King Arlen born. Arlen learned of the rebellion and took steps to end it. He publicly suspended all tithing to the Grey Wardens and declared that they were no longer welcome in Ferelden. Some of the Wardens, mindful that they were supposed to remain politically neutral, felt disgraced by Drayden's involvement in Ferelden politics and left her side, even as the king's forces laid siege to Soldier's Peak. The siege took months and ended with the death of Sophia Drayden. From the personal files of Levi Drayden, merchant. We have some more culture and history. History of the Draydens. In the years following the siege of Soldier's Peak, all those who carried the Drayden name were hunted by King Arlen's forces. Our noble Drayden name was smeared, and all lands and holdings belonging to the Draydens were seized by the crown. The king feared that the rebellion started by Sophia would be kept alive by her loyal friends and family, and anyone with connections to the Draydens suffered greatly. It is little wonder, then, that the few remaining Draydens found themselves with no allies and nowhere to run. Tobin Drayden, Sophia's brother and guardian of her young son, had no choice but to flee Ferelden. Tobin brought passage to Antiva on a merchant vessel and traveled under the name Dorasher. Once in Antiva, Tobin set about building a new life, quiet for himself and his nephew. He started a small business and eventually made a name for himself as a trader. The Dorasher merchant family prospered, and the name Drayden was almost forgotten. However, in 815 Blessed, Sylvie Durocher uncovered old documents belonging to Tobin and pieced together the family's history. In her pride, and perhaps her naivety, Sylvie reclaimed the name Dryden and returned to Ferelden. King Arlen lies dead, and the Dryden name lives on. Our family has survived, even thrived since the death of Sophia Dryden. The nobles of Ferelden may still spit on the Dryden name, but we Drydens know that Sophia Dryden was greater than them, almost a queen, and a hero to the people of Ferelden. From the personal files of Levi Dryden, merchant. We have some information about the Chasnid. Let's find out about those barbarians we've been seeing out there. The Chazid Wilders have lived in the Kokari wilds since the first wars with the Alamari drove them southward a millennium ago. According to their own lore, they had always been a forest-dwelling people that adapted quickly to their new home. Game and fish are plentiful in the wetlands, and the Chaznids thrived. For a time, they and the hill-dwelling Avars were true threats to the northern lowlands. The Tevinter Imperium had arrived and was hard-pressed to keep back the waves of invasions from the south and the west. The fortress of Osagar was built specifically to watch for Chazin hordes venturing north of the tree line. It was not until the legendary warrior Hafter soundly defeated the Chaznid in the first half of the Divine Age that the question of their ability to contest the lowlands was settled permanently. Today, the Chaznid are considered largely peaceful, though their ways are still primitive compared to our own. In the Kokari wilds, they live in strange-looking huts built on stilts or even built into the great treetops. They paint their faces and are split into small tribes ruled by shamans, like those amongst the Avars. There are many tales of these shamans having learned their magic from the witches of the wilds, witches that inspire as much terror as they do awe and gratitude, even if there is no definite proof they exist. In particular, the tale of Flemeth, the greatest witch of the wilds, is celebrated amongst all tribes. While there is no way to know how many there are in the wilds today, few travelers that pass through the forests tell of Chaznin eking out an existence, even in the frozen wastelands to the far south. One can assume that should the Chazid ever organize themselves once more, we might have reason to fear them here in Ferelden. We ignore them at our own peril. From Ferelden, Folklore and History, by Sister Patrine, Chantry Scholar. And we have some information about Lothering. In ancient times, Lothering was little more than a trading post that served the fortress of Ostagar to the south. Nowadays it is larger, serving Redcliffe and the community of merchants and surface dwarves near Orzammar. Its location on the North Road gives it strategic value, so control of Lothering has historically been a matter of contention between the southern Banorn and the South Reach Arling. King Kalanhat himself stepped in and awarded the town to Southreach in the Exalted Age, which has largely ended the feud, or at least the appearance of it. From In Pursuit of Knowledge, The Travels of a Chantry Scholar by Brother Genevinti. We have some new creatures. I think we have, looks like just one, the bear. No beast is more beloved by Dirthamen than the bear. When the world was new, Dirthamen gave one secret to each creature to keep. The foxes traded their secrets to the Andruil for wings. The hares shouted theirs to the treetops. The birds sold theirs for gold and silver. Only the bears kept Dirthamen's gift deep within their dens. They slept the months away in the company of their secrets, and nothing else. When Dirthamen discovered what had been done with his gifts, he snatched the wings from the foxes, silenced the voices of the hares, and turned the birds into paupers. But the bears he honored for their steadfastness. Transcribed from a Dalish tale, 9-8 Dragon. Normally, it is almost unheard of for bears to attack travelers. They are, in fact, so shy and inactive during the day that most people never encounter a bear at all. However, should a bear be provoked, they are remarkably dangerous. The normally placid-seeming creatures become enraged and can strike massive blows with their paws, capable of knocking a man off his feet. Magic and Religion. We have two here. The Imperial Chantry. There are those who would tell you that the Chantry is the same everywhere as it is here, that the divine in Valroyu reigns supreme in the eyes of the Maker, and that this fact is unquestioned throughout Thedas. Do not believe it. The Maker's second commandment, magic must serve man, not rule over him, never held the same meaning within the ancient Tevinter Imperium as it did elsewhere. The Chantry there interpreted the rule as meaning that mages should never control the minds of other men, and that otherwise their magic should benefit the rulers of men as much as possible. When the clerics of Tevinter altered the chant of light to reflect this interpretation of the commandment, the divine in Val Royeaux ordered the clerics to revert to the original chant. They refused, claiming corruption within Val Royeaux, and an argument grew until, in 887 Towers, the chantry in Tevinter elected its own legitimate and uncorrupted divine Vahael, who was not only male, but also happened to be one of the most prominent members of the Tevinter Circle of Magi. This black divine was reviled outside Tevinter, his existence an offense to the chantry in Val Royeaux. After 4 exalted marches to dislodge these rebels, all that the chantry in Royeaux accomplished was to cement their separation. While most aspects of the Imperial Chantry's teachings are the same, prohibitions against magic have been weakened, and male priests have become more prevalent. The Circle of Magi today rules Tevinter directly, ever since the Archon Normoran was elected in 734 Storm, directly from the ranks of the enchanters, to great applause from the public. He dispensed with the old rules, forbidding mages from taking part in politics, and within a century, the true rulers within the various imperial houses, the mages, took their places openly within the government. The Imperial Divine is now always drawn from the ranks of the first enchanters, and operates as Divine and Grand Enchanter both. This is utter heresy to any number of the chantry outside the Tevinter, a return to the days of the Magisters, which brought the blights down upon us. But it exists, and even though we have left the Tevinter Imperium to the mercies of the dread Quinari, still they have endured. Further confrontation between the Black Divine and our so-called White Divine is inevitable. From the Edicts of a Black Divine by Father David of Quarinus, 811 Blessed, an age ago, literally. The Sacred Ashes of Andraste. Only one person witnessed Mafaret's betrayal, Havard the Aegis. A childhood friend of Mareth, he accompanied his chief to the meeting with the Tevinters, not realizing what was planned. When he understood that Mareth was giving Andraste over to be executed, Havard, unwilling to draw swords against his friend and liege, placed himself between Andraste and Tevinter soldiers. The Tevinters struck him down, and Mathreth left him for dead. I think we read this earlier, but this is a different lore entry. Gravely wounded, Havard made his way to the gates of Minrathus to stop the execution. When he reached it, the terrible deed was already done. The armies on the plains long since dispersed. Havard, cursing his weakness, gathered the earthly remains of Andraste that had been left to the wind and rain, and wept. When his fingers touched the pile of ash, his ears filled with song, and he saw before him a vision of Andraste, dressed in cloth made of starlight. She knelt at his side, saying, "The Maker shall never forget you, so long as I remember." The song faded and the vision with it, and Havard was alone, but his wounds were healed, and with new strength Havard took up the ashes of Our Lady and bore them back to the lands of the Alamari. Fearing that Mafaret's supporters would defile them, Havard took the ashes of Andraste to a secluded place high in the mountains, and there he carved them from the living rock an urn to hold them. Time passed, and the whereabouts of the urn faded from memory. Perhaps it was the Maker's will that only the most worthy should find his beloved's final resting place. Now we have only the legends, such that one of the Chevalier Lotaeri, who quested to find the urn to save his dying daughter, and either found it in time to cure her, or returned 100 years after her death. The ballads end less than certain on that point. From Thedas, Myths and Legends, by Brother Genevinti. Okay everyone, that's all the lore so far. We'll pick this up later. Thank you for listening.